Hello folks, it's the Pace Chaser again. Welcome to another one of my videos. This is a departure for this channel. It's something I've not done before. It's a book review. And what's inspired it is the fact that I bought a copy of this book as a payday treat. This is Phillips of Shiptonthorpe, School Bus Operators in the Yorkshire Wolds area by Stuart, Emmett and John Briggs. Published by Stenlake Publishing, as you can see, for a cover price of £12.95. I'm doing this review in March 2024. The book was released about a month or so ago. Now, I had to buy this when I saw it advertised because I grew up in the Hull area, as regular viewers will know. And I remember when we got the bus to York, going past the garage of this firm. It was at Shiptonthorpe, just outside Market Wheaton. The garage was next to the main road that the bus used. And you could see the vehicles parked around, and it had a fascinating variety of vehicles. It wasn't a very well known operator outside the East Riding of Yorkshire, but inside the East Riding of Yorkshire it was more or less legendary for two reasons. Firstly, the proprietor, Mr. Clive Phillips, was known to come out visiting enthusiasts brandishing a shotgun, and secondly, for the variety of vehicles. They had quite an old fleet and quite a mixed fleet, and they bought a lot of vehicles just for spare parts, which they then dumped in fields behind the depot. Very few vehicles were actually sold after service. They just tended to be dumped, as I say, behind the depot into fields, and it became kind of legendary. So when I saw the book advertised, I had to buy a copy of it. So it doesn't claim to be a history of Phillips. As you can see, it starts with a brief description of the area, just for people who aren't familiar with it. And then there's a little bit on schooling, the school system. It does say in it, it's not, as I say, a history of Phillips as such. There is a very brief overview of the history there. But as the book states, the full history of the firm will probably never be written, because the only person who knew it all was Clive Phillips, the proprietor, and he died in 2003. As it also says in the book, most of the photos you can get on the internet were taken in and around the depot. It was next to the main road, so you could avoid having a shotgun brandished at you by just standing on the road and photographing. And that's where most of the photographs that you can find on the internet have been taken. There are also quite a few taken in laybys. They tended to park the buses in laybys. It explains it all in here that they had a very different way of working to how firms do nowadays. A lot of the buses were outbased near the start of the run that they did, and they were driven by part-time drivers. A lot of them, if they could, they recruited school teachers. So the idea was the school teacher would get in, drive the bus to school, obviously spend a day teaching, and then drive the bus back home again at the end of the day. And the buses tended to be parked near the home of the person who drove them, rather than at the depot. It became illegal in later years to do that. After Phillips had ceased, the rules were changed to mean that buses had to go back to a registered operating centre in order to that vehicle examiners could find them to inspect them if when they did an on-the-spot inspection. It was probably a sensible decision to do it that way. It did mess up the kind of system that firms like Phillips used. But I mean, I used to work with a gentleman who'd driven for an independent firm in Eastern England, and quite often if they got word that the vehicle examiners were in the area from other operators, they used to call the drivers to come in, pick up certain of the buses and just drive them out to the depot and park in a lay-by somewhere until the examiners had gone, so that they couldn't find them. So, you know, it stopped practices like that. So it's a mainly pictorial book, and what the authors have tried to do, as they say, is to depict the vehicles actually out working. As I say, most of the photos you can find on the internet of the buses stood in the depot or in laybys, and there's very few of them actually out on the road. And they've done a really good job of finding vehicles, as you can see, running out and about on service, on the school services. You can also see the wide variety of vehicles that Phillips had, which made them a firm favourite with local enthusiasts. But I really enjoyed this book. I opened it to have a look through it when it arrived, and lost 2 hours of afternoon. I just sat and read it from cover to cover, and I found it really fascinating. As I say, I do remember Phillips. They sold out to East Yorkshire in 1988, but East Yorkshire didn't buy most of the fleet. They only bought 18 buses, so most of the vehicles remained at the depot. I did learn something from this book as well. General consensus is that East Yorkshire never used any of the vehicles that they bought, but there are some photos in here of the buses in East Yorkshire ownership with East Yorkshire legal lettering, and there is one photo of one of those vehicles actually out working in East Yorkshire ownership. So it seems that they did use at least one of them in service. A list there of vehicles that were still in the depot site in 1991 and what happened to them. It's not quite accurate. A couple of them were preserved that aren't actually noted that were preserved. Generally they might have an asterisk if they went to preservation, but some of the ones that aren't noted did actually get preserved as well. But yeah, it's a really good, enjoyable little book, and I thoroughly recommend it. As I say, I spent a very pleasurable 2 hours lost in it when it arrived. So, as I say, it's fairly newly released as I'm doing this, so all the ones you can get are as new price, £12.95. I shopped around, I had a look at the online transport booksellers like MDS and Platform 5, and I eventually went on eBay and I found a seller advertising it with free postage. Everybody else I looked at wanted postage and packing on top, and I found a seller advertising it for £12.95 with post free, so I got it from them. But I thoroughly recommend it. It's certainly worth £12.95. I was a little bit worried when I first opened it. If I can just find it, you can see this photo is quite grainy. I thought, oh God, you know, is it all going to be like that? But it's not. As you can see, most of the photos are a lot clearer. It's just an anomaly on that one page. But yeah, I thoroughly recommend it. If you've got an interest in buses in the East Riding, if you've got an interest in the more eclectic operators, it's certainly worth buying. It's just some lovely photos of old vehicles and the mixed fleet that they had. So thank you for watching. If we get a decent few watches, I might do a few more book reviews in the future, but we'll just see how it goes. But as always, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.